Hi, Lee here. I'm going to do a video where I talk about Ace Frehley. Okay, he's going to be coming out with an album soon. Now, judging from the one song that I heard, I will say that if the rest of the songs are as good or even better than that one song, it might be really worth checking out. I do think that the song 10,000 Volts was quite good. I think that there were a little few elements of it that I think might have been a little bit more catering to newer sounds that people born after the year 2000 might be into. So there were a little few things that I thought might be a little bit too emo for my taste, but most of the song, at least about 90% of it, I thought was quite good. And I do like the production. I do like how he sounds. I like the guitars. I like the drums. I like everything. So, do I think this could be as good or possibly even better than the 1978 solo album? I think that's possible. I think that what people don't really take into account is that when you heard the 1978 solo album, whatever time period you heard it in, when you heard it, it gave you an impression. And that impression lasted even if new music comes. And it's kind of like if you were dating someone and the person who you date now seems to like you even more than the person who you dated long ago, and the vibes are really good, but you're still comparing this new person to the old, because even though you're no longer with the person you used to be with, you still have those feelings, as if the feelings are still of importance, even though they're feelings of a situation which is no longer happening. And the feelings that people might have of Ace's solo album back in 1978, it all goes back to the time that it happened. The idea that these were great songs back then, and they still are great songs, but I have to admit there are a few songs that I'm not a fan of that 1978 solo album. I have to also admit I am not a big fan of some of the songs from other solo albums that he did later. But I do like some songs from his later solo albums. So for me, the point is a fresh listening experience. It's like when you hear something, does it strike you right now as being really good? And if that's the case, that's the point. So, will this album strike me the same way that his solo album back then struck me back then? That's what I have to compare it to. Because now, when I listen to the 78 solo album, I still appreciate a lot of it and I still like it, but it's because I already know it. It's not like a fresh experience. There are some songs that still give me that same fresh experience because they're so good. But there are other songs that I still feel they're not as good as other stuff. So for me, if his new album is as good or better than this first song that I've heard so far, I'm going to say it has a chance of being as good as the 78 solo album. Because the point isn't how, oh, we were all younger back then. That's the one thing that people think about. They think about, oh, that was fresh vintage time. They don't think about how someone can have maybe a fresh new time. They think, oh, okay, he came out with a whole bunch of different solo albums since then that were, however they were, might be good, might be not good, but they might not be as good as the 78 album. But if you're someone who thinks about how music can be different, how someone can do something according to what the time is now, you can find yourself not needing to compare it. But I'll say this. I find that if something's as good as something from the past, that can be really cool. And I think that the song 10,000 Volts, the one that I heard, is as good as, or mostly as good at, well, it's about as good as Rip It Out. There were some things about Rip It Out that I thought were a little bit not as good as some of the other songs, even though they're good. But there was a little bit of a ballad element to Rip It Out that I didn't think was great. But overall, it's a great song. So I'm going to hold judgment until I hear the whole album. But to finish, do I think it's possible it can be as good as the 78 solo album? Yes. Because it will be a great album of now, which might compare with what the 78 solo album was back then. We'll see. Feel free to leave your comments. Take care, and bye.